Living with a controlling mother-in-law is bad enough, but when she practically runs your marriage. Linda, my husband John's mom, has always been a control freak, and over the years, her constant interference drove a wedge between us. From the start, she dominated every aspect of our lives, and John, being the ultimate mama's boy, let her. I thought things would improve after we got married, but they only got worse, and eventually everything came to a head when she assaulted me and got arrested. John relied on his mom for everything. Even 3 years into our marriage, he'd run to her with every minor issue. If we disagreed about something trivial, like what movie to watch or what to have for dinner, he'd call her to vent, and she'd always take his side. It wasn't just about advice. John literally asked his mom for permission to do things. Once we had a dinner reservation at 9 p.m., but Linda told him it was too late to go out, and just like that, he canceled the whole night without even asking me how I felt. Every night, Linda would call John at exactly 10:30 p.m. to tell him it was time for bed, and he'd obey her, even if we were in the middle of something important. I confronted him about setting boundaries, but each time he'd just call Linda and ask her to explain why the relationship was normal. It drove me crazy, especially when he accused me of trying to control him. The warning signs had always been there. Early on in our relationship, John and I planned a romantic weekend getaway, but before we could finalize the details, he told me he needed to check with his mom first. At the time, I thought he was just being considerate, but when Linda said it was too dangerous, he canceled the trip immediately. I should have seen that as a massive red flag, but I brushed it off, thinking things would change once we were married. It didn't. The breaking point came on our 3rd wedding anniversary. I had planned a special evening, dinner at the restaurant where we had our first date, followed by a night at a bed and breakfast. I was so excited to surprise John, but when I got home that day, he wasn't there. I called him, only to find out he had forgotten our anniversary, and was out having dinner with his mom because she had a rough day. I was furious. This was supposed to be our night, but he chose to spend it with her. When he finally came home, I tried to explain how hurt I was, but instead of making things right, he did what he always did. He called Linda to complain about me. I could hear him in the next room, telling her how unreasonable I was being. That was it for me, I snapped. I walked into the room, grabbed the phone, and told Linda she needed to stop meddling in our marriage. I told her that if she wanted to boss someone around, she should find her own man. Linda, of course, went ballistic. She accused me of being jealous of their relationship and trying to come between them. We had a huge argument on the phone, with John standing there, looking completely lost. The next day, Linda showed up at our house unannounced, walked in without knocking, and acted like nothing had happened. At dinner that night, she criticized my cooking. I'd spent hours preparing John's favorite dish, spicy chicken curry, but as soon as Linda took a bite, she put down her fork and said it was too spicy. She even turned to John, saying she didn't know how he could eat it, and that it wasn't good for his stomach. John, of course, didn't stand up for me. Instead, he suggested we order takeout to make Linda happy. I was done. Things escalated even further when Linda started spreading lies about me to family and friends. She told everyone that I was trying to break up the family, and even went as far as calling my job to make false complaints, which almost cost me my position. That's when I knew I had to take drastic action. I decided to get a restraining order against her. When Linda found out about the restraining order, she lost it. She showed up at our house in a rage, pushed me, and grabbed my hair. I called the police, and they arrested her for assault. For the first time, John saw how far his mom had gone, and it broke him. He visited her in jail, hoping to reason with her, but Linda refused to apologize. She told him he was making a huge mistake and would regret choosing me over her. John was devastated. He loved his mom, but finally realized how toxic she had been all along. After a long conversation, John made the difficult decision to cut ties with Linda for the sake of our marriage. It wasn't easy, and I could see how much it hurt him, but he knew it was the only way forward. Since then, things have been better, though the scars from everything we went through are still there. We're working on rebuilding our relationship, and John is slowly learning to stand on his own without his mom's constant influence. Cutting ties with Linda was the hardest decision John ever made, but it was the only way to protect our marriage and move forward together.